evening, everyone. We would like to welcome you all for our webinar today. Our webinar is going to be on STEAM versus STEM, where you will be learning the theoretical and practical implementations of 3D printing. I am Dipali Shivdasani. I'm the Digital Marketing Executive at Leader Edutech. We specialize in providing educational tools to academic professionals, schools, corporates, and individuals. Our services ranges from innovative learning solutions to various turnkey solutions for supporting and empowering schools. Today, it is an honor to have Mr. Victor from Skriware with us. He's the educational trainer with Skriware, and today he will be guiding us through the process of STEAM versus STEM education and also demonstrating the difference between STEAM and STEM education. So we are really looking forward for this very interesting and very informative webinar. So everybody just stay tuned with us, and it is going to be a very interesting webinar. If you have any questions, towards the end, we will be having the question and answer round when you can ask your questions. Thank you.
Hello.
So now I leave the stage to Victor.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. It's a great honor. It's a great pleasure to be here today with you. And today, as it was already said, we are going to explore the difference between STEAM and STEM education. And also, we are going to see how it is possible to enhance your own teaching experience using 3D modeling, using 3D printing, and using other STEAM and STEM techniques. Of course, if you have any questions during the webinar, please don't hesitate to text them. And as soon as we read them, we will be able to answer them. Also, our meeting today will be divided into parts: theoretical one and practical one. We will start with theoretical one. So again, as I said, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to interact with us, and we will be happy to help you as soon as possible. We are going to start in a second. So let's start with the introduction to the topic. Of course, the introduction, each topic is the introduction, right? So this general idea of STEAM and STEM education is not that recent, but not also that old. And in order to understand it better, in order to see what influence, what impact it has on our today's life and our today's society, it would be wise to go some years back and to start with historical and cultural background of the topic, of both of the topics, of both of the concepts. So we will start with traditional education in general. Let's go back in time for around 80 years back and imagine ourselves students in the regular school. What will be the first thing that you think of when you are this kind of student? I'm pretty sure that most of the people will say a teacher. The first and one of the most distinguished features of traditional education, and when I say traditional education, I don't mean that in ancient Greek education, for example, classical education, traditional in more recent form. Then we can mark that all lessons and the whole curriculum was heavily teacher-centered. It doesn't mean, of course, that the teacher nowadays in modern classroom, they don't have the authority, they don't have the influence on students' educational shaping, that they don't have any direct impact. Of course, that's not true. Teaching, as well as studying something, is a process based on interpersonal relations. And we all went to school. I'm pretty sure that we all have these memories, like memories about our favorite teacher and the memories about, let's say, the teacher who was not our favorite. And from this perspective, the interaction between teachers and students, the personal interactions, the human interactions, are still very important and depend on the personalities of both parties of the process. But if we try to systemize our approach to education back in the day, it was extremely teacher-centered. The teacher was the last source of knowledge, and also his or her work was also classed. Again, theoretical focus, as you can see in the second point, is also present nowadays. But back in the day, the whole material, the whole set of materials was heavily based on theory. And the more complex subjects became, the more complex the theoretical part appeared to be. The third point is a bit contradictory, let's say. It's easy to argue on that. Creativity in all spheres of our, let's say, activities, technological, social, historical, cultural, it's the main source of the progress. And I'm pretty sure that 200 years ago, 300 years ago, there were specialists and teachers who actually admitted that the role of creativity in educative process and encourage students to be creative during their lessons. But again, we are trying to systemize the whole thing here, right? So from this perspective, creativity was not that of a big part of curriculum. It doesn't matter what subject we're talking about. Of course, students' passiveness. I'm sure that educators here who are now connected with us will agree that this is still a problem. It still exists, and it will always exist. We need to constantly encourage our students to explore the world of science, subject that we are studying. So, as the part of systemized approach to education, it was not that controlled. The results of the students were the students' responsibility, and the teacher's responsibility was to present the material, which was basically theoretical, mostly theoretical. A very important part of this process was the information transfer. It was a direct information transfer from the teacher to the students. The teacher here is a metaphorical teacher. It's the teacher, the books, the materials, everything which was present during the lesson. But the most important thing is that this way was direct from point A to point B. And the last but not least, the subject was more important than skills. What do I mean by that? The subject itself also is deeply connected with historical background of different countries, different regions. Let's say that, for example, 60 years ago, or maybe 80 years ago, in the countries of post-Soviet Union, engineering, rocket building, and the whole technology aspect was very important for political and the whole historical context. From this perspective, teachers tried to push the students towards these subjects, and the subject itself was more important than the person who did that. So it doesn't matter who will build this rocket. The most important thing is for the country at this specific timeline of its existence, that the rocket must be built. It doesn't matter by whom, it just must be built. So it doesn't mean that different branches of technology and other subjects are not important nowadays. It's just we have different approach towards pushing students for its exploration. That's the main points, in my opinion, of traditional education, and I think one of the most important points here is the first one: teacher-centered lesson. As you can see on the next slide here, modern education has a completely different approach towards the whole process. Starting from the first one, teacher-centered lessons, they transformed into student-centered lessons. Now, the student is the heart of the universe, or of the classroom universe. And again, I would like to stress that it doesn't matter that the role of the teacher in the classroom is somehow neglected or somehow being changed. No, it's just the whole purpose of the educational process is now going more towards the needs of the students than for the curriculum needs and needs of the teachers. Practical focus still exists, and skill and concepts still are very important. So we're going from the theoretical basis of the subjects to the practical focus. It was theoretically focused, Now it's focused on practice. Again, it doesn't matter. Doesn't mean, sorry. Again, that technology, that theory is somehow also being neglected during the educational process. No, it just also means that the proportions now are different. And when students get some skills, they need to have the practical manifestations of the skills they are getting. So they actually need to see the proof that they learn something. They know how to do something with their head. Interactive lessons nowadays are also quite common. Is just to say they are quite common is to say that it's the basic of the most educational curriculums around. Lessons are now interactive, not in terms only of interactions between the teacher and the student, but also in terms of interactions of the students with the subject that they are studying. So they are not only allowed, encouraged to ask questions about what they're doing, why they're doing that, and what most important is, how could they do that faster, better, or in a different way, more convenient way, or just different. So the student is always encouraged to interact with with the subject that he or she are studying. Information transfer has changed as well. Now the information is going from the teacher to the students and other way around as well. So I'm pretty sure that all educators who are now here today with us will agree that the job of the teacher is, first of all, very hard, that's for sure, but as well, it also demands non-stop self-improvement, or at least it demands the person to try to do that. Students are the first source of the information. So students are teaching teachers how to be better teachers, and teachers are teaching students. So nowadays, this process is going both ways. And the last point here in the court education is that the skills are more important than the subject. What do we mean by that? Before that, let's say the quantity was more important than the quality. So the more engineers the country the better the whole rocket engineering is. Nowadays, it's not the same. Skills that students are actually getting through the educational process are more important than the subject they are actually studying. Many subjects are now interconnected, especially when we talk about secondary education and higher. From this perspective, the whole technological advancement process is being also influenced heavily by the students' interactions with the subject. So if the student studies biology, it doesn't mean that he needs to study biology only. It might encourage him to study another subject, and in such a way, another subject will get professional later on. So the skills, the practical skills, are now the tool that actually makes this whole thing work, that actually helps us in our society to meet the demands, the technological demands. I'm sure that it's not going to be a secret for anyone that our society is heavily influenced and heavily dependent on different technologies. And to, as I said before, to make this thing going, to have this thing still going, we need to meet the demands of the market and prepare professionals in different branches. Starting from early education, that's exactly the time when when people's lives should be shaped in the right direction in order for us to thrive as species, as human kind. We have discussed two main approaches, let's say, to education, concepts connected to cultural and historical background, traditional education and modern education. We have seen some differences, fundamental differences in these two concepts. And now let's have a look at some of the teaching methods that are being used in modern schools around. Again, I would like to stress the fact that it's only the tip of the iceberg. First of all, every teacher has the right, full right, and I'm pretty sure that many people do that around the world. They actually to create their own methods of teaching and prove them to be effective. Again, these are, let's say, most common. So let's have a quick look at that. Collaborative learning, basically group learning, is something that prepares students for the future challenges in terms of problem-solving skills. It's not enough just to give students tools to one particular student, to give tools to perform tasks. It is important to prepare him that he or she is going to have lots and lots of these tasks, and most of the time they're going to work in groups. So collaborative learning works great with STEAM educational concept. We are going to focus, I'm leaping forward a bit, but we are going to focus on that a bit later. Why specifically this interpersonal relation is important for STEAM education. And STEAM, not STEM, I would like to stress this out. But I'm pretty sure that if someone who is here with us today has experience in teaching, I'm pretty sure that these people know how important, how vital group learning can be in modern classroom. Not only it is effective, but also helps to socialize, also helps students to perform the tasks that they are asked to perform. Gamification was always present in the educational process, starting years and hundreds and even probably thousands of years ago. When we do something stressful, and studying is stressful, I'm pretty sure that everyone remembers that. Teaching is stressful, studying is even more stressful. So when we do something stressful, it's natural for us to relieve the stress. Games give this kind of opportunity, but that's the least of its educational values. In forms of games, despite of the age of the students, it's much easier to receive new information, to actually get new information from the original sources. It's actually easier to interact with the subject that you are actually now studying. It's hard to focus all the time, so teachers around the world use games in their curriculum a lot. My personal experience shows that it doesn't matter if you have a group of students, young learners, adult learners, everyone likes games, and after that the results are much better than they could be without it. And still, as any part of the process, educational process, it should be heavily controlled by the teacher and serve personal educational purpose, not entertainment purpose. We're covering now a bit of the basic stuff, so I'm pretty sure most of you already know that, but to understand better our general approach to education, it's better to start from these basics. Flipped classroom is great. It's great experience for both parties of the classrooms, let's say. It's a great opportunity for students to see what's happening on the other side of the classroom, to be the teachers themselves, and it's a great opportunity for the teacher to check how the educational process is going. A lot of fun activities can be done with this method, and I'm sure that many teachers also have tried that. It gives vital data for the whole process, that's for sure. And the last one, also the last but not least, self-learning. Unfortunately, also my personal teaching experience shows that many teachers, for some reason, overestimate the importance of this method. It doesn't mean that it's not important. It should be present in any curriculum. It's not physically possible to provide students with every piece of information they need to know. But it should be, first of all, controlled, and let's say the proportions of self-learning and actual learning should be to a moderate extent. These are four of the main methods of teaching in modern classroom that were heavily influenced by that transition change, by that transformation age, let's say, that we are experiencing right now in educational sphere. As I said before, educational sphere is a living organism. It's evolving, it's getting smarter, so we need to actually be smarter too in order to keep up. Traditional education, modern education, giving us a lot of interesting teaching methods we are now using in our classrooms. Now we are ready to move on to our actual topic of today's webinar: STEM and STEAM education. What is it? Why did it happen? What was the background for it? What was the reason for it? That's what we're going to discuss right now. So we will start with STEM, since chronologically it appeared earlier. That's why we start. If you have a look at the slide, see a short description of the topic. It says that STEM is a curriculum based on the idea that educating students in 4 specific disciplines. And now we are meaning the acronyms to science, technology, engineering, math is fundamental. It's vital. It's very important. When did it happen? Again, we need to go a bit back on the timeline and see what was happening in late 1950s. It was a troubled time when 2 worlds were colliding all the time. And in 1957, Soviet Union launched the Sputnik in space. It was considered to be a great technological advancement, great technological achievement, and a source of national pride of the country. As we might know, back in the day, science was a very important leverage to actually influence the life of the whole country. It became like a national sport to invent something, to be the first in something, and to actually write your name in history as the inventor of something. As the answer to this, accepting the challenge, United States in 1958 created NASA, which of course we all know is still functioning right now, and the challenge was accepted successfully. And these 2 events started the sequence of further events that transformed the educational approach to education as we know it today. In 1970s, but before 1970s, in 1970s and 1980s, the whole approach to technological advancement of nation of the whole world was something distant, something that people did not experience in their actual life every day. It was an article in newspaper. It was a sci-fi novel or something like that. But one of the things that I think everyone should check is Apple's famous commercial 1984 of Macintosh computer, which actually was launched in 1984. This commercial is considered to be the trigger, is considered to be the starting point of the whole change of approach to education, not education, change to approach to technology. So it was now something that can be present in everyone's house, in everyday life of each person. Computers are now accessible, so technology and science is now accessible. So the market grows, the demand grows, we have more technological gadgets, but we don't have enough people to create more and to maintain them. So that's why in 1990s, the wisest people of America gathered together and thought how they could improve their school system, educational system of their country. And that's when the STEM acronym was first used. And that's actually when people agreed, let's say, that, all right, we have a society having dependent on technology. We need more. We need this to grow in geometrical progression. So we need more specialists, we need more gadgets, we need more technologies. So it's all piling up. And they agreed to have these 4 main pillars of education, of technological advancement in general: science, technology, engineering, math. STEM education. In 1990s, it is considered that this acronym was first used. Later on in 2000s, educational initiatives in the United States appear, in Europe and other countries, and that's actually when STEM education actually showed the results, the actual results, what happened, how it changed our educational system. That's the cultural and historical background of STEM education, which has transformed, and now both of these terms exist together, into STEAM education. And I'm sure it's not hard to notice that the difference is with letter A, which means arts. So basically, the general idea is to add arts into other disciplines that were in STEM education. So now it's not 4 pillars, but now it's 5 pillars of technological advancement. STEAM was created in 2006 by Georgette Yakman, and the whole concept, the idea of it, is to incorporate the activities that are widely used in arts education into STEM education. And the results proved to be very effective. As you can see here, if you have a look at the quote of Dr. Kristen Cook, she explains it very well. But the main difference, the main thing between these two approaches is that arts give skills that STEM education lacks. We are going to have a look at them right now. But before that, it should be noted that STEAM is the brainchild of one person who was the adept of STEM education before. So actually STEAM was created out of STEM. And it's not about a fight which concept is best. It's about incorporating different techniques and different concepts to make them more effective. So as we said before, the transition age still continues. That's why one concept should always be proved by the influence of other concepts. This is it. We are now at the point where we covered historical background of education, the history of STEM education, some of the techniques and general characteristics of modern education, and also the way STEAM appeared and general idea how they are different. Here you can see that innovation has always transformed education and everything connected to it, starting from thousands and thousands of years ago and till the end, to the transformation age that we are living right now. So this slide makes it summarizes the whole approach towards our development, social development. Starting from thousands and thousands of years ago, everything new that appears in our life gives birth to new ideas, gives birth to new opportunities, and it happens rapidly, very quickly. I'm pretty sure that you're understand. I think this is the time that if you have any questions, please let us know, and we are going to help you answer them. Okay. Yes, we are going to share PPT. We're going to share the webinar. It's great to see you interested. Thank you for that. If there are no questions connected specifically to the topic of the webinar, then I suppose we can just continue. You can just let us know if the questions appear on the webinar. So we are now at the point. STEM exists. STEAM also exists. We know how important innovations and technologies are in our life, and we know how to achieve success in that field. Now let's have a look at what we have already achieved and where we are heading now. According to it's actually on the survey, it's like everything is on the plate. We know that jobs into the type of jobs that actually exist in 2022. Robotics engineer, AI engineer, data analyst, drone engineer, artist, space engineer, everything which is heavily interconnected with technology. Right now, these are jobs that already exist. But everything is changing, right? And I'm pretty sure, and everyone's sure, that these jobs will not meet the demand of technological market very soon. In 15 years, in 10 years, we are going to need more professionals with new responsibilities, a new set of skills that actually right now they might not be very useful, but later on they for sure will be. Let's take a couple of examples. Robotics engineer will become the robotics maintenance era. So the more AI gadgets, and I'm pretty sure that there will be dozens of thousands of them very, very soon, all around the world. The more we have, the more people we need to not create more, because we already have professionals in that field, but to maintain those and make specific models better. It works right now, right? Our phones, computers, everything is there. But the more complex our gadgets actually become, the more complex the maintenance becomes, and the more complex the set of skills that one individual should have also becomes. AI engineer, ethicist, AI ethicist. This sounds a bit like taken from the pages of sci-fi novel, but I'm pretty sure that this will happen. We are all using AI in our everyday life, even without knowing that. Our phones, our computers are a great example of that. But if in the future we come to the point when artificial intelligence will get smart enough to find decisions for complex tasks, in this case, AI ethicists will have to emerge, will have to appear. Otherwise, the maintenance of these complex gadgets will just not be possible. And the same thing goes with all other professions, with all other things that you can see on the slide. Drone engineer becomes drone center operator. So basically, the scale is growing, right? We are expanding the scale of our innovations, and it also expands the scale of its maintenance. So that's the most important thing. We need more people who actually know what to do with that. Another thing which is connected with STEAM education, heavily artists, for example, because today we're focusing mostly on technology, right? It's a very important part of our life, but not the only one, not the only important part, let's say. Let's take the pure art. The pure art is in different variety of its manifestations. A lot of artists nowadays already use gadgets to enhance their creativity, enhance their artistic outcome. But who says that AI enhanced artists will not appear? Who says that artificial intelligence will not be able to actually create art? And if it does, then what should we do about that? Well, how can we distinguish the real art? Okay, that's not a good thing to say. Probably not real art, but one kind of art and another, right? That's something that this question never appeared. Hasn't appeared yet, but there is a high possibility that it will very soon. So my point is that the scale here is important. We are growing, we are expanding the scale of our innovations, and the scale of our demands also grows. Either we meet these demands, or the progress will stop. Now let's go to the practical implementation of how each of you, how everyone who is interested in education or is a professional could enhance their teaching ability. So a very simple physical concept of buoyancy of knowledge, as it is showed in different schools in the United States. That's the part of the curriculum of different schools in the United States. For some reason, not for some reason, we will discuss for what reason they like it very much, but it's great, it's very good. It can be demonstrated right here. All you need to do to present to your students with is your materials that you need. Water and two oranges, 1 and 2. One is peeled, another is not. To demonstrate the buoyancy of an orange, you just need to put both of the oranges in water. One of them will float, another one will drown. Just give it a second. Yes, now it's drowned. So the peeled orange is floating, the field orange is drowning, and one is floating. Now let's get back to the presentation and discuss the educational value of this experiment. So what do we actually try to teach students when we show something like that, right? First of all, experimental approach to studies. That's something that all students, all teachers should be focused on. It doesn't matter what subject you are actually teaching or studying. Very important thing is to actually see what you're doing and have this experimental feeling that you can actually do yourself with your hands, to present it to your friends, to whoever. That science actually is with you all the time, and you can use it. Another thing which is going out of this thing is that the curiosity of students is extremely encouraged in such a way. So if they can see that they can do things like that on their own at home, they might be interested in searching for another experiments like that they can do, and in such a way the whole interest for science is encouraged. And another thing is to demonstrate the concept itself, right? It's the educational value is self-obvious. You actually show the students what they need to know, then the teacher describes why it happens, why the field orange is not drowning, why the one is drowning, and so on. This point of demonstration is also very important both in STEM and STEAM education. Let's answer a couple of questions. Is this experiment fulfills its educational purpose? Yes, your students will know the concept of biology. Is it fun to do? Yes, students love that. Is it flexible? Can it be put in different curriculum, regardless of the school and region that you're using? Yes, it is. So from all perspectives, this experiment is actually great, valuable, and very good, but it lacks a couple of things. That's the exercise in the spirit of STEM education. So it shows the progress in its pure scientific technological form. Students see the concept of physics themselves, they replicate it, and they actually summarize the whole thing and get the experience. Now let's move on to the STEAM education and actually to STEAM education exercise and implementation of 3D printing in it. We are talking about two exercises, two experiments, let's say, of different age groups, right? So this one, STEAM education, is taken from the curriculum of older students, but the general concept remains the same. Apart from the whole approach, as I said before, demonstrational approach of science, 3D printing, 3D modeling creates this actual, fills this actual demand. So creating models gives you a great chance of demonstration. Let's, for example, have a look at Notre Dame in Paris, right? Students have a chance to have a look at it. Students have a chance to experience the scale. We put a different building next to it, and in such a way they will have the experience of actual interaction with the subject. The thing that we have discussed before, students are not interacting with the subject on the pages of the textbooks. They are actually interacting with things that they're studying. It doesn't matter what they are studying. Are they more advanced and they study architecture, or they study history in secondary school? They can touch it, they can see it. The demonstrational concept of STEM education still exists here. And it's very important for both of the concepts. They will have a chance to have a look at our Earth. The teacher will have a chance to show different geographical concepts connected to. Now, the experiment itself. The maze construction experiment. Many schools nowadays, they use additional tools, additional aids, and we in Skriware actually believe that these additional tools should be reserved in the spirit of STEAM education. That's why we believe that a robot like that a simple robot, which is only looks simple. It's not really simple, but this part is actually super simple. Instruction kit can actually help students to enhance their STEAM exploration. How do we do that? We ask students to build a maze and they need to program the robot in such a way so the robot would complete the maze. If the students are not advanced enough to know the basics of programming, then they can just remotely control it for it to follow the maze. So that's it. Actually, the robot part itself is not that important. It's just a visual tool here. Now, what lacks from the previous one, STEM education, will be present here. First of all, we are talking about group collaborative learning. We create groups, we create subgroups in these groups. You could ask, like, why couldn't we just ask students to be in groups in the previous experiment? Well, first of all, it could be like that. We could assign different roles. One is doing the experiment, another one is actually making research and noting everything down. But the outcome, the scientific outcome of the experiment, would remain the same, right? The concept of the biopsy was demonstrated, period, that's it. Here, with this experiment, different skills, only partially connected with the global educational value of the experiment, are being encouraged too. So we create the group of students, the bigger group of students, and smaller subgroups. The first subgroup is responsible for actually drawing the maze, actually creating it from scratch. In such a way they could get the basics of, let's say, 3D modeling. Actually, that's also a very good thing. The school has the access to 3D modeling software, there are plenty of them nowadays, some of them are for free. And students create the model themselves. If not, they can just use pencil and paper. Also, still very good. The first group creates the maze. The second one is responsible for actually building it. So using a simple construction kit like that, construction blocks, they create them. They follow their own. Design and create the maze. Of course, different subgroups interact with each other and do things together. But the responsibility still is for some specific subgroup. The third group is actually responsible for the robot to follow the maze correctly. And here, in the last stage of this experiment, all three subgroups take part. So actually, the point is not to create subgroups and actually demand the responsibility, but to show students already that group activities and problem solving skills are usually work in collaboration. So all three groups, of course, on practice is going to look like that all students do everything, but they do everything together and they do three different directions. The basics of 3D modeling, creating the design of the maze, the basics of actually engineering, creating it with their hands, and the basics of programming, creating using tools like robots or any other tool that can be connected to it, to the whole experiment. So we don't connect it to some specific product. It's just to show the value of STEAM concept. So what's the difference? What was different from the first one? And that's actually this tendency. This tendency goes as the red line through the whole STEM education concept. Most of the experiments, most of the activities, exercises are focused on the individual performance. People, young learners, they lack soft skills, interpersonal skills, group thinking, group problem solving skills, and things like that. Here, we can summarize everything, sum it up, and see what are actually the difference between these two concepts and how we could actually use them in our classrooms. Let's start with the STEAM education. So apart from other positive things that come from STEM education, STEAM education also provides communication, collaboration, critical thinking and problem solving, and creativity. When it comes to STEM, we have hard scientific focus, technology as the main force of progress, and creativity in pure technological form. Let's quickly go through all the parts here. So, does STEAM have hard scientific focus? Yes, of course it does. Does STEAM education have the technology as the main force of the progress? Of course it has. So all these points are still there. But we have additionally soft skills like communication, collaboration, and other things that you can see on the left side of the screen. So summarizing the whole thing, we can actually say that education is the process which is being evolving all the time. And STEAM education is the branch of STEM education, which takes the best parts of it, is trying to adapt it according to the growing interests in technology and science, and according to actually approach to our general problem thinking aspect of life, right? We tend to do that in groups, work in groups. We rarely invent something individually. So STEAM education also encourages students to be creative in its pure form, not only in the form of pure technological advancement, but in the pure form of creativity. Let's face the truth, not all students will become professionals in the sphere of in the field of technology. But if they follow the concept of STEAM, they will have a chance to perform in a creative way in any sphere that they decide to be their main. So in my opinion, that's the main difference of these two concepts. And I suppose this is it from my side, and I really hope that you enjoyed that. So now I think that it's time for us to have some questions, if you have some, of course.
Victor, there was a question.
Yeah.
There was a question that can STEAM be applied in language classes?
Yes, that's actually the question that a lot of people ask, and yes, now it can be applied in different humanity studies as well, but to moderate extent. Linguistic classes can be supported with STEAM technology, that's for sure, but the linguistic curriculum is yet to be more flexible in this term. So of course we can use gadgets, technology, and linguistic lessons, and that will somehow encourage also STEAM education spirit as well. But the whole STEAM linguistic curriculum is yet to be created. But there are a lot of specialists that actually work on that right now as we are talking. So I'm pretty sure very soon it will be possible, and it is possible partially. Okay, thank you for your presentation. I would like to know how STEAM will be implemented in remote regions without access to internet, such as remote areas in Kenya. Our country has not added coding to the curriculum, and as a private sector stakeholder, how can we ensure this? Well, the first and the main answer, I suppose, is that teachers responsible for STEAM curriculum should be trained on site if there is such a possibility. If there is no such possibility, it's possible to organize the training on site in Kenya, for example. Then the school itself, the educational establishment gets the tools, the supplies, and after people responsible for STEAM implementation in schools, so couple of teachers or the whole teacher community will get certified, they don't need internet access. So actually everything that you can get from us, for example, if you get that Skriware educational solution, and if you get it stationary, you don't need to have internet access all the time. You just have the tools, and you can create your own materials out of that. The main thing is to have supplies, right? You need to have construction kits, you need to have robots, you need to have something, and that can be easily transported. And another thing is not just to take things from the internet, right, and implement lessons, but also to get the general idea, to know how it works, and then it will be easy for you having the tools, implement STEAM yourself, just having basic just having the basic tutorials for you. Thank you. Thank you. If you have any questions, please contact us. We'll be happy to help you. All right. Well, if some questions appear later on, please don't hesitate to text us, email us. We will try to help you as soon as possible. It was a great pleasure to have you today and to be here today. I hope that we will meet again pretty soon and continue to explore STEAM education together. If you're interested, or if you're interested, next event like that will have purely practical implementation of STEAM concepts. So there will be a lot of exercises. There will be a lot of interesting practical things that you can use during the lessons. So please make sure that you stay tuned, and in case of next webinars, please make sure you attend. Of course, if you're interested in exploration. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Victor. Thank you for all our participants who have joined the session. Hope it was really informative. And we will be sharing the webinar recording with all of you shortly. And if you have any questions, you can get in touch with us at helpdesk@leaderedutech.com. And we'll be happy to guide you through Skriware and the products they offer and all the other products as well, which Leader Edutech offers. And yes, definitely, as Victor said, we will be having more webinars and it will be more practical demonstrations. So stay tuned and you will be updated whenever we have our next webinar. So thank you so much for joining in.
Thank you very much.